and then you're putting it out afterwards.
Hi guys, and welcome to an FPL video. I'm happy to be joined with Dan. How you doing, mate?
Yes, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, I'm looking to obviously break down the players in the FPL fantasy this season that you think we should possibly avoid. I won't agree with them all. It's just how it is. But yeah, we'll start off at goalkeepers. We'll get right into it. So guys, if you haven't already, it'd be great if you could like and subscribe, and if you're on Twitter, it'd be great, obviously, if you could like and retweet it. We're obviously up for hearing your views on each player, because my team is nowhere near done. Yes, you'll see it down the left here whenever I'm searching for certain players, but yeah, it's just a very, very basic first draft, which I'll be changing right up until the deadline.
That's more than I've got done, Robbie. I've not even put a first draft together, mate. Honestly,
there's no rush.
That's it. Yeah, the season's a little while away. I think you need to wait until you see who comes in. There could be some, key players that actually, sign for big teams like, Kane going to City, or there's this talk of Haaland going to Chelsea. Big transfers like that could make a big difference on where you actually go for your first week on your FPL. So yeah, I'm not even bothering putting my draft together yet.
Yeah, so let me hear about obviously the goalkeeping spot, because we briefly spoke about this before we started, and we're definitely going to focus on the United keepers.
Yes, yeah. I know it's probably going to come as a bit of a shock, or maybe not, because we're a Man United podcast, to actually talk about avoiding Man United players. So it's actually the two keepers themselves, both De Gea and Henderson. And this is nothing, in regards to them as players, as performances. It is just purely down to that question of who gets the number one spot at Old Trafford. I think that De Gea is probably the one out of the two that is going to get the majority of the game time, but we don't know that. Henderson played a lot more than we would have probably expected last year. So I think for me, it's just a bit too uncertain to actually put one of them as your starting keeper. Just purely on the basis that you don't know which one is going to play. I mean, you could potentially have one as a sub goalkeeper, but do you really want to be spending $5 million on a sub goalkeeper? Me personally, I don't think I would. So yeah, I think that's probably why I've got them as my avoids. I don't know what you think, mate.
Yeah, so I mean, I completely agree with your choice. I would 100% avoid David De Gea and Dean Henderson, which are both in at £5 million, which is, it's way too high, because we obviously don't keep that many clean sheets in the grand scheme of things. And also you need to remember the fact that these keepers could possibly be rotating, which that's an absolute lottery who's going to start in goals. Yeah. And for me, I wouldn't be going with any goalkeeper who's over 4.5 million. I think there's too many good options at 4.5.
Yeah, 100%.
And I've got Robert Sanchez, who's in, who I just feel as if he's a better option. Obviously with 101 points, come in late at the end of last season. And Matt Ryan get loaned out to Arsenal. I can't see myself going away from Robert Sanchez, but there is other good options. McCarthy's also relatively good as well. Always pretty consistent. And if you go down, obviously, it kind of goes off a bit. However, there is a good few ones that are, highly owned at that low price tag.
Yeah.
For me, as well, even Emiliano Martinez, like 5.5 million. He was very cheap last year. I don't know why you'd spend that amount of money on a goalkeeper. I think it's just very silly doing that, and I think I think it'd be much better to go with the 4.5 million, style of keeper.
Yeah, I get that with Emmy, but I think that the thing with Martinez is he's just won the Copa America with Argentina. Yeah. I get that's completely irrelevant in terms of the season ahead, but he's going to be super confident coming off the back of that. I think Villa are looking pretty strong. They're obviously, they've got a lot of money. They're signing some good players. Maybe Grealish is on his way out of the club. So Villa could actually have some really good differentials this year. But I have to agree in terms of the price. I think 5.5 to have him, at a price point higher than some of the keepers that you mentioned previously.
Yeah,
I just think it's maybe just a bit too much to spend on a keeper. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I need to agree. I think it's just overkill doing that, where you can spend it on perfectly competent keeper for 4.5 million. They've obviously got a good first couple of games too. You'll keep a few clean sheets, I'm sure of it. But yeah, anyway, talk to me about your defensive player that you'd avoid in your team.
Yeah, I'm not intentionally trying to be what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember what the word is I'm looking for, but yeah, I'm not trying to make people think that I'm picking players that you would always pick intentionally. I'm going with Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know he's one of the sort of golden boys of FPL, certainly over the past couple of years, but in my opinion, not necessarily last year. And I think going into this year, I don't think he is value for money. I have to just quickly go back to the defenders real quick. Yes, as I thought, he's the most expensive goalkeeper, most expensive defender, of course, at 7.5 mil. I just think that when you look at how expensive some of the midfielders are and some of the strikers are, you want to be trying to save a little bit of money, just to obviously put into your forward players. And I actually think that Alexander-Arnold didn't have a great season last year. I think that's clear for everyone to see. He certainly didn't have the year that he had prior to that one. I know that they've got a good run of fixtures early on, but he's getting over his injury, of course, he had at the back end of last year, so it might take him a little bit of time to get back up to speed. For me, I don't know what it is. I think he's a fantastic footballer. Again, it's not his ability. I just think that it's a mixture of him getting back into form and recovering from that injury he had at the back end of last season. I'm going to say that I'm in the minority when I pick Trent Alexander-Arnold as one to avoid. I'm guessing you're probably going to disagree with me. I'm not sure what you think.
Well, obviously, I went with Robertson in my first draft, and that was just down to the fact that Alexander-Arnold missed the Euros due to injury. Yeah. And, you do say he had a bad season, but, if you look at his point total down the right-hand side, he had 160 points that season.
Yeah, that is true.
Which does kind of show you that he's still getting assists. He's got the 8 assists, two goals scored, 10 clean sheets. That is such a good record, and
it is.
Obviously, you look at their fixtures, in the opening 6, you couldn't have asked for a better start. Obviously, apart from Chelsea, it's a one-off game. And for me, I have to have at least one Liverpool defender in.
Yes.
I'd like to do another video on players, possibly hidden gems, who we could bring in. So I won't, differ and go and start talking about those guys. However, talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think he does still have value, but I'm not 100% certain about putting him into my draft for the opening game because, he obviously missed the Euros due to injury.
Yeah, I think that's the big one. Will he start week 1? Will he be fit in time?
Yeah, it's a big ask. Andy Robertson obviously had a great season as well. He was the only person who done better than Alexander-Arnold on one more point than him. So
yeah, I didn't realise that Alexander-Arnold had actually scored that many points last year. That's probably why I didn't do too well in my mini leagues.
Yeah. Well, he obviously still manages to get the clean sheets, the goals scored. He obviously scored 2 vital goals last season. towards the back end of it, and he still got a good amount of assists. So for me, I need to disagree with you. I don't think I'd avoid him for most of the season. I think I'd avoid him possibly for the opening few games, let's say. But yeah, he's kind of one of those players.
I think he's one that I'm going to avoid personally. I think just because of the price point, the injury, and just the whether or not he's actually going to sort of start at the start of the season. But as the year goes on, I'm sure I'll change my opinion, and I'm sure when he starts banging, crosses in, I'll be putting him in my team for sure. But right now, he's an avoid for me.
Yeah, so we're going to go into midfield now. No, I'm not surprised with I'm actually not surprised with both of them because, we'll start off with Raheem Sterling because, I mean, he's a lot of money. He's a lot of money for a player who only scored 154 points, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot whenever you're comparing it to, let's say, Bruno Fernandes, Mo Salah, who's only 1.5 million above, or Heung-min Son, who's 228 and he's only 10 million. I need to agree with you on that.
I agree, mate. I think that the reasons that I was going to outline are similar to what you said. The fact that he's 11 million, and in terms of his points return last season, he's we look down the list, he's ninth on the midfielders. I think it is something like that. So yeah, I think that his value just isn't there at 11 million. I wonder whether or not the guys over at the Premier League, the guys who run the fantasy Premier League, have actually thought about the price point on Sterling based on his Euros performance.
Well, I absolutely love Sterling in the Euros from a fantasy because he basically carried me at weeks. I can remember I put him in against Scotland. Obviously, he didn't manage to. I think he got 2 points, obviously, just from lasting more than 60 minutes. Took him out for a few match days and then added him back in, and he was banging them in. He was getting involved in absolutely everything. Put him as my captain, done me well. So I mean, I think that is possibly what to do. But then obviously, with FPL, the Pep roulette, because they've got so many amazing players, attacking players, and it's just you don't know who's going to start either.
So difficult, isn't it? With, like you say, the Pep roulette.
Who's going to start in that team? Who's going to start out wide? I've not got a clue.
It could be one of five. It could be one of five, mate. It could be Sterling. It could be Torres. It could be Mahrez. It could be Foden if he plays him out there on the right. It is just you don't know, do you? Yeah, Bernardo Silva. It's so difficult when Pep's the manager to pick that team. And also as well, I think it was maybe in the first game against Croatia when he scored. His post-match interview, they talked about whether or not he'd proved that he deserved to be in the starting lineup by scoring a goal against Croatia. And I think that we're trying to hint about his sort of performance for Man City in the season. And he just sort of laughed it off and said, "What do you think?" But he also said something as well about the international stage being different to the club stage, and he had a completely different mindset going into the Euros than what he did playing for Man City. And I just wonder whether he's happy at City, whether he's happy with the rotation that happens, and maybe there's something there that we don't necessarily know about that is affecting his form at club level, because he didn't have a good season last year. And I have to say, I honestly didn't expect him to do as well as he did at the Euros because of that form.
Look at 18-19. Oh, 234 points, and the year before that, 229.
It just shows you, doesn't it?
It's weird how that can just drop, and it's look how much is going down this season, and it is just due to the Pep roulette. Sterling hasn't been playing bad football. It's just rotation. Yeah. So that, I think, is why I would go with someone like Heung-min Son, who's going to score them, who's going to get the assists, who's going to be the vocal point of Spurs if Harry Kane moves on. Personally, this isn't one of your choices, so I'm just going to add mine in quickly. I would not take Sadio Mane. At that price tag, 12 million. Quite a rough season. And obviously Salah's only 0.5 million more than him.
Yeah.
And Bruno Fernandes is the exact same as him. I think it's a no-brainer to leave Sadio Mane out. But, I think by having Salah or Mane in, it gives you that rotation. So whoever is getting off to an absolute blinder of a start, you can rotate, whoever you want in, really.
Yeah.
So that is my guy who I'm missing out. But as I said, mate, I need as many Liverpool players in as possible. I need to get the 3 Liverpool players in due to the fact that they've got the opening games that are very easy, on paper. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. And I want to hear another midfield choice from you because there's so many to, look at. Some great players in there. You actually look at Leeds as well. I mean, they've blown us away with Stuart Dallas and Jack Harrison in there as well.
Yeah. I think
it's Mason Mount for you, isn't it? Because
it is, yeah.
He started a lot of games last season. Didn't get a lot of points.
No, that's it. And I was going to sort of point out that we were talking about Sterling and his point return last year, but Mount's the next person on the list underneath him. Now I completely get that Mason Mount's 7.5 mil price point is going to be appealing. But then you've got to look at the stats. You're absolutely right. Last season he scored 6 goals, 7 assists, which is not a bad return, but only 147 points. I just don't think that the value is there. You just talked about the boys from Leeds, Dallas and Harrison. Dallas is 5.5 million, Harrison at 6. Leeds are only going to get stronger this year, I think, after the first season back in the Premier League. So I think they're going to do really good again. Mason Mount, again, just like I said with De Gea, just like I said with Alexander-Arnold, I think they're fantastic footballers. Mason Mount is a fantastic footballer. The opening fixtures for Chelsea aren't particularly easy. I think, they've got Crystal Palace first week. There is a couple of Crystal Palace players that I did want to talk about in terms of avoiding. But, we can maybe speak about that another time. But, yeah, you look at the first sort of 5 fixtures and you've got Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, who are, a solid team and could give them a game, Tottenham, and then Man City straight after. So the first 6 games, they've got 5 really difficult fixtures. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go for Mount because there's other players at that price tag who are
like Jota,
just as good. I mean, you look at Diego Jota. He obviously only managed to get 86 points last season, but
he was out for a long period.
Yeah, if you look at his goal to game ratio, things like that, you can't fault him, and he'll usually play up front, and you're getting a midfielder in there, and he's only like 7.5 mil. Obviously he got no assists last season. However, he got 9 goals, and Mason Mount's never usually injured, and he managed to only get I think it was 7 goals, 8 or 9 assists, something like that, which is very underwhelming for a guy that you'd expect him to bang them in. So I need to agree with you on that. I think Mason Mount is definitely a player to avoid, and I probably would avoid him for the full season.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Mason Mount as a footballer. I said that at the beginning because he is a fantastic footballer, but in terms of Fantasy Premier League return, I just don't think it's there for him. He influences the game massively. But in terms of those crucial points on FPL, the value is just not there, is it?
No, definitely not. And, we're going to quickly move on to the strikers because, this is where everyone loves to hear about it because, a lot of strikers are actually midfielders this year. You look at Diego Jota as well, who's much further back. Heung-min Son, I'm actually surprised he's not up front because he started a lot of games as a second striker for Spurs. So it kind of limits us with options because Jamie Vardy's very expensive this year. He's obviously getting on, so you don't know how many games he's going to start with Daka coming in, and obviously Iheanacho banging them in, and Harry Kane. We just don't know where he's at, so I'm not touching him at all. So yeah, he would probably be for me the guy to avoid at the moment.
I agree, 100%. Hadn't spoke about him with you previously. Hadn't got him on my list. Hadn't even thought about him. He certainly wouldn't have been going in my team when I did get back, around to do my first draft. Vardy's a definite miss for me this year, especially Patson Daka, he's a very good player.
Yeah, obviously, like, you go with Harry Kane, he's going to score goals. However, for 12.5 million, he didn't score every game or every second game. He didn't get assists, which he did do last season, yes. But we don't know where he'll be at. We don't know if he'll be in the Pep Roulette. We don't know what is going on. So for me, I'm staying away from Harry Kane at the moment. I'm not saying it could possibly change. We'll probably do an updated one right before, match day 1, which I'm really looking forward to the season getting underway. Obviously, we'll be doing match previews, match reviews of the United games, but the FPL, Dan, we're obviously here for, to talk about different players from different teams in the league, as well. But yeah, I mean, Harry Kane's one of the players I would definitely miss out. So yeah, what about you, mate? Because I know you do have a few different shouts here.
Yeah, a couple. I agree with you on Harry Kane, though, very quickly. I think if he is still at Spurs come the start of the season, again, just avoid with every game, I think, all the way through the season. At that price point, not worth it. If he's at City, he's probably going straight into my team, to be honest. But yeah, so the two that I have for my avoid in the striker position are, well, I'll start with Firmino. You've got him on the screen. I think just actually looking straight away at, anybody that's interested in the stats, you can see the drop off, from his 17-18 season and his 18-19 season in comparison to the previous 2 years. He's just on a downward trajectory. I think he's been a brilliant player for Liverpool. I remember we signed, who did we sign at the same time as him?
Is it not Marsh? No.
Can't remember who it was, but it was a player we signed at a similar time as Firmino, and there was a lot of comparisons between the two. I obviously backed the United player, whoever it was. And for me,
Martial.
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been. I think it might have been. It sounds about right in terms of the timing. And Firmino just had a couple of fantastic seasons. And I just think, and like I say, his form, his assists, his goals are just on a downward trajectory. And in terms of what you mentioned about who's going to be playing up front for Liverpool, you've got that, Diogo Jota as a midfield option on FPL. He is probably going to be playing up front. So those two are probably going to be role reversed in real life rather than on FPL. So I think he's a definite miss for me this year. Certainly in terms of when you've only got 3 players that you can pick from each team, the assets that you want to take from Liverpool, he's not one of them for me.
Yeah, and the thing is with Roberto Firmino, at that 9 million price tag, I think they've got it right because, it lets people take the risk of possibly having them in the team for such easy fixtures in the opening 6.
Yeah.
However, if you maybe had him at 8 million, 7.5, it'd be a must-have. He did still get obviously 141 points, 9 goals, 8 assists, played the majority of matches. He'd be a must-have, and it's crazy saying that. It obviously makes that slight difference. For just that slight money change over. But yeah, that would kind of put him into the price tag of Danny Ings, possibly Calvert-Lewin. It'll kind of take him into that range, but I think he would be slightly better suited at, and I'd back Firmino over those type of guys. Down to the fact that I'm doing wild card in match day 6, because he's got an opening good fixture. So that is why I went with Diogo Jota, Salah, and Robertson for my 3 Liverpool players. But that could obviously vary. I wish Firmino was a bit cheaper, but there's absolutely nothing we could do about that. So what is your other pick for the strikers of a player that you must avoid then, just before we finish off?
Yeah, so it's Timo Werner. I thought coming into last season, when Chelsea signed him, I thought he was going to be the difference maker for them. Honestly, he didn't. He had a bad season in terms of striker, scoring goals. He didn't have a good season as a number 9. Finishing chances, creating chances was something that he did do. I think just looking at the screen here, he got 12 assists, which some midfielders in the top teams didn't get. So, you know, he didn't do particularly bad in terms of creating chances, but I think that when you look at your striking options, you know, again, 9 million, I just think for a player that just didn't do it for me last season, I think that there is better options out there. Like you mentioned, the 7.5s, 8 million marks, Danny Ings, even Bamford at Leeds again, I think he's going to have a really good season. I do think they're going to do really well this year. So yeah, I just think I'm just avoiding Werner because of personal reasons. Actually, I kept him in my team for the majority of last season because I backed him. I thought he can't have had the career that he's had so far at Leipzig and not just start banging goals in at some point, and it just didn't happen for him. So it's a bit of a personal vendetta that I'm not putting him in my team this year.
See, I think that is the main issue, the fact that he banged him in with RB Leipzig and he's still got that 9 million price tag because they're very scared about actually giving him less, letting him bang them in, and then he'll just, you know, be in everyone's team because he's another guy where if he was at 7, 8 million, he'd be in my team. And you know, for that price tag, 128 points, that is fantastic. But yeah, I think 9 million is a very risky chance to take for a player who, you know, could possibly not even start because Chelsea do look as if they want another striker in this summer. So yeah, as I said, my striking options, Watkins and Calvert-Lewin, there's nowhere near finished. I don't know if I'll keep them in my team. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I'm just chopping and changing, watching pre-season, seeing how it goes. And I'm pretty sure we could do an updated one of these, Dan, near the time. But anyway, mate, it was great, obviously, having you on to discuss, you know, players that we would avoid. I disagreed with you on a few of them, not a lot, which is quite surprising because I do like to disagree with quite a lot of people on fantasy football. Because I've got, you know, everyone's got their own opinions, but
yeah, that's it. That's part of the fun, isn't it? You're not all going to agree on the players that you have and the players that you don't have.
Yeah, another thing, guys. Obviously, I'll be back with, you know, regular FPL content at least once a week because, you know, we've got a lot of other series going on, along with, you know, United gossip, transfer news, and, you know, we're just talking about how the season's going to go as a whole. But Dan, obviously, I'm happy to announce, you know, obviously you'll be joining me on a lot of these FPL podcasts, you know, for the future.
I'll have a team ready. I'll have a team ready for next time.
Great. And guys, if you have any suggestions of, you know, FPL videos you would like to see, you know, that would be much appreciated, and, you know, we could get that going. But yeah, I mean, I think I've got a few ideas about what we can do and about how I can challenge Dan for the upcoming season. Well, and obviously we're going to do our own league, which, you know, we'll have giveaways going out for that. I finally managed to get in contact with the guy who won the EuroLeague, who absolutely smashed it. He got 14th in the world, which is just unreal. He was in our division as well. He got a signed match ball. I'm looking to bring him on, Dan. I think you would love to speak to him as well. You know, I'd love to absolutely pick his mind to see what he actually come up with during that and see if he can give me any FPL tips too. So, mate, thanks very much for joining me. If you guys haven't already, please like and subscribe, and, you know, follow us on the socials as well. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys.